Welcome students. In this particular class, we would be writing a C++ program to swap two numbers without the utilization of a third variable. Now you might be asking, why should we do this in this fashion? Now whenever we use any additional variables for a program, it takes up space and also execution time. And as we all know, these two things cost money, and given the fact that the C++ as a language is known for its versatility, in other words, speed and efficiency go hand in hand with C++. So we will have to do everything within our capacity to make sure that the program is functioning in a faster manner. Having said that, the objective here is to get rid of the third variable and use an algorithm that would allow us to give this program the ability to swap two given inputs from the user. So that's exactly the core of the program. So having mentioned that, let us start off with the include keyword. So as I mentioned to you, when you say include IO stream, we are actually enabling the ability for the program to receive input and to print the output. So that is the important part. And next we will be using namespace std. As I mentioned to you, these come in built-in library functions which allows us to design applications. So having made that point clear, we will have to give the main here, int main. As I mentioned to you also, that the C++ program is basically made up of functions, and int main is the parent function. So foremost, what I wish to do is I would like to declare two variables. So this is going to be number one, separator number two. So two numbers are declared, and then I want to give a printout cout statement. I'm going to say this is a program that is meant to swap two numbers without the use of temp variable. So that is fine. So I want to give a line break. So for that, you need to use this command, and then I am completing it with a semicolon. So that looks fine. So now we need to receive the input. So please enter the first number. So the first number is prompted, and as I mentioned to you, I would like to have a line gap, so I'm including this. So that is fine, and I would have to receive it, right? So that is done using cin. So cin will get us that number. So now I will copy this line of code and I will display it one more time. So this is going to be enter, please enter the second number, and the variable is going to be number 2. Now this is where it gets interesting. Now see the operation I'm going to perform, the algorithm. So I'm going to take number 1, and to number 1 I would be adding number 2. So number 1 has got number 1 and number 2 added. Now what I'm going to do with the number 2 is that from number 1, so now the new number 1 has got number 2 also. So our present number 2 is going to be the number 1. From number 1 I take away number 2. So what happens when you do that? Our new number 2 is going to have the number 1. So that is how we do that. So that's the first swap. Now the second swap is, this is very critical, so you have to be a little bit careful with this second one. So this is going to be number 1. Now remember, number 1 is a composition of number 1 and number 2, so that is still there. So I'm going to start out with number 1. From number 1 I'm going to take away number 2. Now while number 2 Now the number 2 has got number 1 because of the fact that we have written this line of code. That is why I'm using number 2 here. So that is the important part in this particular program that we will have to understand. So after that, I'm going to give a cout. So in cout, I'm going to say this was the number given by you. Okay, the original number original number. So the spelling is ORI. Okay, the original number 1 is equal to, right, this is going to be the number 1, and I want to give a break. So break will be provided there. Probably I can copy this. Don't worry about this line because the library is not identifying this. It doesn't matter to us. So we go up and we can publish the second number, the original number 2. So that's going to be fine there. Now what I would do is I would give a break here just to make the output a little bit more presentable. And now comes the swapped number. Okay, cout. After swapping, right, I know we got to write a little bit of code here because so this is going to be the result. Now this is going to be number 1 and number 2. Now what we have to do here is we cannot get this printed over here, because if we were to print this over here, these lines of code would have already been executed. So that would give us only the swapped output. So what we have to do is we have to take this out, right, take that out and then place it right before the swapping could take place. So in this case, we receive the number and that number 1 would be printed here, and we have received the number 2 and that number 2 would be printed here. That's exactly what would be taking place here. Now this set of code would be executed after this swapping has occurred. So in that way we are just fine. So we will just return 0, enter the first number. Let me just start off with 5. Enter the second number, let's be 4. So the original number 5 for that's great. The original number 2 is 4. After swapping, the original number is 4 and the original number 1 is 4 and the original number 2 is 5. So this is really beautiful. So that is the conclusion for this particular program, students. We will move on to the next program. Probably what I can do is I can rerun it. I can give a bigger number, say 120, enter and say 112. So you can clearly see here the first number is 120, second number is 112. In this case, the first number is 112 and the second number is 120. So that's a beautiful output we have got, and that completes this program, students. Thank you.